I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Rachel, and this is Neurodivergent Voices, the podcast amplifying the voices and lived experience of the neurodivergent community.
We're licensed occupational therapists who specialize in the brain and are neurodivergent ourselves. Join us so often in this podcast that is for you and by you, the neurodivergent community.
If you're interested in learning more about neurodiversity and joining a vibrant community of neuro-inclusive adults, head to our website, divergecommunity.com.
Interested in an interview? Email divergecs@gmail.com to get it scheduled. Let's get to it.
In this episode, we interviewed Stephanie's good friend, Bree. And let me tell you, this is a good one you're going to want to sit down for. You're going to need to get your popcorn, get your cozy socks on, because we talk about all the good things like self-exploration and making accommodations as a late realized neurodivergent person, being perceived, and working within your capacity. So snuggle on up. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. I want to
We just smiled as if anyone could hear that.
Hello, listeners. In true fashion, we never said we'd be having a schedule, so we're coming at this a couple weeks later.
Yeah, it's actually New Year's Day, so happy 2024.
Woo!
And hopefully we post this in 2024.
That's the goal. I think we'll be able to do it tonight. It's either tonight or it's not happening for
now
months.
Now or never.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to get some new perspectives in on the podcast, so I brought my friend, Bree.
Hi, I'm Bree.
Do you want to kind of give a brief introduction, like, of how we know each other and why you're here?
Yeah. So Steph and I were roommates, and they were roommates. Steph and I were roommates in college for our freshman year. We did the little quiz thing that they give you, and we ended up getting paired up, and it worked out amazingly. Stephanie is obviously a wonderful person. But I was really excited to hear that they were starting this business and trying to bring to light more neurodivergent voices, which is why I'm here, because I hope to provide some perspectives for people who are maybe questioning or haven't gone through the formal process of getting a diagnosis, because that is where I am at.
Yeah. Do you want, we haven't always done this, but I also like to give kind of a visual description for people that are just listening auditorily. Mm-hmm. So do you want to give kind of like what you're wearing, what you kind of look like?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So I am about like 5'5". I have curly, long, dark blonde, light brown hair. I think historically I've called it dirty dishwater, but that doesn't really, it's not the best description. Maybe it is. I've got blue eyes. I've got a nice little gold septum ring on. My new frames I got a couple months ago that match my jacket. They're both like a maroony red. My coat is thrifted. It's suede. It's very nice. Deep color. Green shirt, crop top. Smokey says keep it green. If you know, you know. And some Hollister baggy pants and socks that don't irritate me when I wear them.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I think there's one more thing you need to comment on.
Is it my hat? I'm sorry, I forgot about my hat. Gray hat that has little teddy style ears, I want to say. Have no idea where I know where I got it. Somebody left it at my house and I wasn't able to find out who, so it's mine. And I've had it for years.
I love it.
It's my favorite.
Do you want to say what you're wearing, Rachel?
Oh yeah, so I am here with my classic hair up in a clip look. It's not anything I wear these days because overstimulation is real. I'm in a green checkered crop top, like sheen, what do you call it? It's like a sateen.
Yeah.
A sateen shirt that Stephanie gave to me, which is how I get most of my clothes. She ordered it online and didn't fit or didn't need it, and here I go. Mm-hmm. And then I'm wearing my thrifted jeans with a naturally occurring knee rip. Squatted down one too many times, I guess. And I'm wearing my fun little, like, squiggly earrings, which I now realize look like a little gingerbread man. And now that I've seen that, I can't unsee it. So I'm wearing gingerbread earrings and a little gold chain necklace.
I'm wearing my flannel for my wedding because it's comfy.
Yeah, it is. Wait. Can you show them what's on the back?
Oh, yeah, it does. It says bride on the back. It's been several years, like 6 years plus. And Rachel found it in my closet today. And it's what fits currently because I'm changing weight and sizes because I'm pregnant. So.
Oh, shit, she just dropped it like that. Okay.
So,
Diverge is growing, baby.
Diverge, baby.
yeah, but nothing fits. So, flannel from the wedding. And baggy, just like baggy black grayish jeans.
Are those chinos? Would you call those a chino?
I don't know what a chino is.
They're pants. That's the extent of what we know.
Yeah, that's about it. And then my Bombas because I love the arch support and like just that little bit of hug-like feeling, that proprioception right here. Oof, yeah.
Yeah, I'm wearing gold toes. We all commented on our socks, so that's cool. What brand are yours, Brie?
I don't know. They have a dollar sign on the back though, so that's kind of slay.
Okay, ankle. Okay, so yours are like the ankle length.
But they got the little bump in the back, so my heel doesn't.
Yeah, no. Oh,
Yeah.
gosh, you guys. Yeah, mine are like the tall ones that I wear because I don't know, I don't have any pants that actually fit me lengthwise. And so there's always that gap, which I think is a look, but it's also really cold. So I like to wear tall socks, even though it's not doing anything for me fashion-wise. But.
Yeah, I do not like socks that come up like more than 2 inches.
Yeah, my calves are too big.
Yeah, exactly. And the socks, they're just not made for calves. They're not. Sorry.
All right, agree to disagree, but you know, we'll get more into that in the speed round at the end, huh? Ooh.
Rachel's phone blocked, so I don't have the questions on me exactly.
Jeepers.
But from what I briefly remember, what we sent you to before, but also we kind of go rogue.
Oh gosh.
In this stuff.
I can't
in
be
general.
fully prepared, huh?
It's okay. What would you describe like yourself as on a daily basis? Like, what's your strengths? What do you like to do? Like,
Who are you?
Who's
Who
Brie?
am I?
Who are you? I don't know you actually, so this is good. I mean, we've met briefly.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so a brief synopsis of myself and my life. I'm 28 years old. I'm a Libra, if that matters to you. If you don't have nice things to say, please don't say them to me. I am the second born in a family of 5 children, which there's a pretty big age gap between the kids, which you don't think is relevant, but it really is to my life and my development. I am a homeowner. I've been in this house since November of 2017, so it's been a while. I have a full-time job, like an office job. I'm an office manager and an HR assistant, and I've been at this job for almost 1.5 years now. I'm in a similar field that I've always been in, which is like executive assisting, office management. I've worked in a couple of different areas, so this new one is new to me, but previous to that I was in, real estate and mortgages and stuff. But when I'm not working, I'm really I'm trying to chill. That's the simplest thing I could say. I think right now I'm struggling with feeling like I'm headed towards, a burnout area. So things are taking a lot out of me, so I'm really just trying to maintain some sort of status quo and comfortability in my day-to-day. I'm a huge avid TV watcher, movies. I love consuming content, somewhat to a fault because it does take up a lot of time. And then the other big thing for me is music as well. I'm listening to music constantly. I have created music in the past when I was growing up more. I've had experience in a couple different instruments, but as of right now, I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row and get the courage to actually pursue some sort of production or DJing music making. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on these days. And one other big thing I've been getting into lately is my Switch. I'm very into my Switch right now. Ooh. I want cozy games, I know are a vibe, but some of them do have too much to do that it's not relaxing. So I'm right now easing into ones that are kind of in the in-between, but just trying to find stuff to be comfortable at home and kind of reset until weather turns back around and things feel a little bit better.
What's your kind of go-to Switch game right now?
Okay, so right now I'm really into, like, cozy-wise, the one I'm playing by myself is called Wildflowers. You're like a girl named Tara, and you go to live with your grandma Hazel, and you find out that she's a witch, and you also are a witch, and you're helping her around the farm, and, like, you know, I'm only like 7 hours into it right now, I think, but yeah, I'm just kind of doing a bunch of tasks and helping my grandma and learning out how to do spells.
I love that.
It's really cute. I'll send you the link later. It's very cute.
Do you do like potions and stuff with it?
I just started that aspect. You have to like collect stuff. I had to make paper to write incantations on. I have to go fishing to get squid to make ink to write the incantations, and I have to like make offerings to the cauldron, I think, to maintain my magic bar, and it will be spent as I use it, and it's just kind of a balance of doing a bunch of different tasks, which seems more manageable than doing that in my actual real life.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
For kind of speaking of things that kind of drain us and what might be a little bit more tricky at some points, what's kind of your spoon drainers and spoon givers, I guess?
I know this is going to sound really annoying, but it's pretty much anything that I don't want to be doing. Yeah. It takes a lot for me to get myself to do these things that I just don't want to be doing, even though I know I really should. I think that, you know, self-care tasks is something that a lot of people struggle with for a lot of different reasons, but that's a big one for me. You know, keeping up with things around the house, keeping up with my own self. Grocery shopping is the bane of my existence. I hate it so much. I hate it so much. I was trying to make accommodations for myself in that regard, and I'd make sure I had my headphones and stuff and try to go at specific times, but even that really wasn't cutting it for me, so I actually haven't been in the grocery store to get groceries in probably a couple months now. I order my groceries a lot, and cooking's been a little bit hard too, so I'm actually eating carry out a lot right now, which isn't the best thing, but at least I'm being fed, which, you know, is really all I can ask for, because that is also a big struggle of mine, you know, trying to figure out what I want to eat, how I'm going to get it, and sometimes I'll spend so much time fixating on what I'm going to eat, if it's where am I going to get it, how am I going to get it, like, is it going to be healthy enough? Do I even want to eat it? And by the time I've done that for so long, I sometimes don't even pull the trigger and get anything, and I just eat sleep, which is not good. Don't do that. So, yeah, pretty much. And it's a spectrum, too, you know, like, if I'm not doing well spoons-wise anyways, of course, these tasks are going to drain me regardless. But I know that it's becoming an issue for me because I'm not really enjoying the things that I would normally do. Like, for example, I'm really big into music and going out to dance and stuff. And the last couple of times I've tried to do that, I've either bought the ticket and just didn't go, or I did go and I regretted going and left early or something like that. So I have to kind of figure out how to replenish the energy in the spoons, and that's something I'm kind of working on right now. Yeah.
I just want to say that you are very well spoken, and I just feel like I could listen to you talk about anything forever. So maybe that needs to be like somehow wrapped into your repertoire of when you get the energy and courage to produce your own thing. I think that's going to be a big asset for you.
Oh, thank you. That's actually very nice to hear, because I do struggle to speak. I struggle with being perceived sometimes. Like, on in one sense, I really like to hear how people see me, but on the other hand, I don't.
Yeah.
But I do think I can do really well with words when I have the time to reflect on what I'm going to say, and I do really well in writing, but sometimes I struggle with speaking correctly, so thank you for saying that.
I remember in college you writing like beautiful papers that you put like your heart and soul into.
Thank you. I feel so far away from that though. Like, I'm trying to think about what it would be like for me to go back into that setting, and I don't know if I could. And actually, some more context is that I did drop out of school Valentine's Day of second semester of my first year, so I actually fully didn't complete it. But I think that I was pushing so hard to meet these expectations. I had stuff going on with myself. I had stuff going on with my family. I wasn't able to handle everything, and I had to take a step back, which ended up working out for me. But that kind of comes to the point where at that time I wasn't having this realization of, okay, maybe I have some other things going on, and there's a reason why I'm struggling to do X, Y, and Z. So with the knowledge that I have now, or what I'm trying to figure out, I don't know if I could have that same success unless it was something I really wanted to do. So
Yeah. It also, like, for social context, I think there was a lot of social pressure put on you specifically for, like, classes and stuff. You had a lot of admin staff saying, like, oh, yeah, we're going to put her in the most hardest classes because she's one of the smartest.
Yeah, they literally were like, yeah, we're going to fast track. And they didn't tell me until after the fact, like, the second semester when I was going in. They're like, oh, yeah, we had you in, like, 17 credits, and it was an honors course, and, like, orgo and all these, like, pre-nursing classes. Didn't know I wasn't supposed to be taking that many, and, it obviously didn't go well. So that really didn't help, but in something that I'm trying to view in a positive lens around that is that, I know people who do have degrees and haven't been able to utilize them or are still struggling to pay back, the money that they had to take out to go to school. And without me being completely certain of what I want to do, I think it was the right choice for me to not continue to pursue that, because I'm trying to imagine what my life would be like if I had continued with my nursing degree and had to be a nurse through COVID, and, like, if I would have made it for real. And I do have a very close friend who is a nurse who is also going through a very similar process that I am, and kind of unmasking and figuring out that there's some neurodivergency here. And to kind of see from her perspective what that process was like, it was really, really difficult. And I don't know if I would have been strong enough to continue to do that after the fact, and it would have landed me in another position where I didn't have a job and I was in debt and X, Y, and Z. So I'm happy with my decision. I didn't feel very good about it at the time, and things got very weird, but it ended up working out where I do have, like, a stable job, stable career, I suppose. And I'm doing pretty well in it, and I'm able to make a living without having to deal with those specific debts. So, yeah, win some, lose some.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that with us. You've shared so many tidbits that I wish I had a better memory to keep track of them all, because there's so many things I think are such relatable experiences that you brought up that aren't things people always openly talk about.
Yeah, I'm like an oversharer, and I sometimes see that as a fault. Sometimes I feel regretful after the fact if I've said something and somebody didn't have the reaction I thought, or if it just didn't seem well received, anything like that. But I'm interested in having genuine connections with people, and the people that are meant for me are going to see me for who I am and will want to hear these things, and the people that don't like what I have to say are not meant to be my people. And I don't like when I'm upsetting people or if they don't like me, but at the end of the day, what's that going to get me other than being stressed about somebody who doesn't care?
Yeah.
So I think it's good to say your piece if you've got one. And obviously, not everyone has to know everything, but I'm just trying to fast track to genuine connections.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to help other people. If this can help anybody get some perspective or feel like they're not alone, or, that's worth it for being vulnerable.
We keep on talking about your strengths and kind of, like, bringing it to light on our end, because we see a lot of strengths in you, obviously. But what do you think, like, for yourself, what your strengths are, or what, like, is the most thing that you like about yourself?
I think a lot of these things are kind of like double-edged swords. It's bad things that can have good things come out of them, and it's like duality of all things. So I'd say I'm a pretty good person for, like, planning. Like, if you are needing something to come together and you need somebody to think of all the things that could possibly go wrong, I'm your girl. I could be very, very prepared, and that manifests in a lot of different ways, but just kind of, and that's, thinking about how conversations could go and trying to have different talking points for whatever might come up, or, if we're going on a trip, I have way too much packed. I have overpacked because I'm trying to be over-prepared. But that's, it's rooted in anxiety, which is something that I'm diagnosed with having. So, dual-edged sword. The other thing I think that I do well, that I feel kind of prideful in, is, I guess I want to say, caregiving. That started with with my family and having younger siblings. So the biggest gap in my siblings was 17 years. So my oldest sister is 33 and my youngest brother is 15 or 16. So I did a lot of childcare for many years for my younger siblings, and that kind of morphed and included my friends and even, you know, acquaintances, general strangers. I just try to do what I can to make sure that everyone's okay and comfortable, and that comes from being empathetic, which is a beautiful thing, but can also be very difficult because you feel everything so deeply, both good and bad. So I try to take that and focus on the good of it while still acknowledging the difficult parts, because I don't think that toxic positivity is a good thing either.
True.
Yeah.
So just trying to acknowledge both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the nuance in that. Oftentimes I get so, like, this or that. I get really caught in this, like, dichotomy or this black and white thinking. So to hear you have a positive spin on anxiety is very refreshing to me because that's always something I just put in the bucket of bad, right? But I think you are right, and there's more nuance than that.
Yeah, and it's hard to not try to look for, in my experience, to look for like bright spots in it, because it's been something that's so ingrained into me. Like I've been anxious since I can remember, and I've been in therapy pretty consistently with the same person for over 9 years now. And, you know, I've been working on that. It's something that I've gotten a lot better at, but I don't know if my anxiety is ever something that's going to go away, but I don't need to let it control my life and have it all be a negative thing. But I know that it's hard to kind of push past it when the feelings that you feel about it are so negative, because you know that, you know, they say anxiety is you worrying about stuff that hasn't happened yet, but, you know, what if I could have been prepared? So it's just about handling the cards that you have in the best way that you can, and being patient with other people who might have different cards than you. Yeah.
For context, I know we've kind of, I don't want to say beat around the bush for it, but you've mentioned identifying a little bit as more neurodivergent, or like this self-exploration that's kind of occurring.
Yeah.
Can you kind of go more into depth?
Yeah, so I will start by saying that I'm not sure if I'm using this in the correct context, but I feel like I'm somebody who suffers from imposter syndrome. Like I'm always afraid that, even in my entire life with anxiety, going through depression and suicidal ideation and all of that, just feeling like somebody was going to look at me and tell me like, no, that's wrong. You don't feel that way, or that's like not what you're going through. So I think that was a part of the reason why it was such a long time coming for me to have the realizations that I've had. But it's an accumulation of different things that kind of led me to the space that I'm at. So I have multiple family members who are diagnosed as neurodivergent, or, you know, different disorders that fall under that umbrella. So kind of being able to see through their lived experience and kind of have that perspective, and then go through what I went through in college and start care with a therapist that I've been seeing for so many years, that, you know, we've had discussions about potential things going on. He's not one, he's an LSW, so he's not one that would provide a psych eval or anything like that, but we've discussed about possibilities, and we've walked through the DSM and looked at different criteria. And then with that, kind of in my adult years, connecting with neurodivergent people and having discussions with them, and them pointing out to me like, hey, I do that and you do that, and I don't think it's as widespread as you think that it is, and kind of having those realizations. Because in my experience, neurodivergent people tend to naturally kind of flock to each other in a way, you know, real recognizes real. But just kind of being drawn to the people that can understand what you're going through, and that you can try to be your authentic self with. But an accumulation of all those things at the same time that there's this big boom of neurodivergency discussions and mental health discussions, specifically on the internet. Social media, Instagram, TikTok was a really, really big one. There's just tons of videos from a lot of different people, but the ones that spoke out to me were people that were in my demographic. You know, people who identify as women that are having this later in life diagnosis, and talking about the signs and the symptoms that were pointed out to them in their evaluations that they didn't realize were actual criteria. I think I spent a lot of my life thinking I was just silly, quirky, particular, without really having any reason for those things. So all of those together kind of led me on a road to realize, okay, this is something that's actually a possibility, and kind of diving into it. The big thing that's a struggle for me is kind of differentiating between where one thing starts and another one does. I think there's a good amount of overlap in some of the criterias as well. So I mentioned earlier that I am diagnosed with anxiety and depression. There's also an eating disorder in there too, if that's relevant. But the things that I'd been in discussion with my therapist was autism, ADHD, and OCD. So it can be intimidating to have so many different things brought up as a possibility, to try to differentiate between, what is what. But the main thing I'm trying to figure out now is if I want to take the steps to get a formal evaluation and a formal diagnosis. At this point, I'm trying to make accommodations for myself as best I can, reasonably. And I just have to figure out if it is, what it would change for me to go through the process. If I'm looking for more self-validation that yes, a medical professional agrees with me and what I feel like I'm going through, because I don't know, what the formal diagnosis could change accommodation-wise, like in my workplace, or if I would even pursue something like that. But I think that, you know yourself, and you should be able to draw these conclusions reasonably. If you don't have the official channels accessible to you. I think both are very valid, both are important, but I don't want one to be overshadowed by the other, if that makes sense. Sorry, that was very long-winded.
No, that was perfect.
I'm just sitting here taking in what you're saying, but also being very envious of man, I wish I could communicate that the way she did. At being in it sounds like we're in such a similar place. And hearing others talk about it helps you identify and process things within yourself too. So just very appreciative of you sharing that. And I think what you said at the end there is really resonating with me. It's hey, I'm accommodating myself one way or the other. I don't know specifically if there's a diagnosis, if that's necessary, what the diagnosis is. There just is so much overlap. But what I do know is I know me, and I know what I need, and I'm figuring out how to best make that need. And I feel like that's kind of Divergent at its core too, is we're just trying to help people better understand themselves and embrace their differences as a way of improving their lives and society in general.
Yeah. And for some people it's good they want the labels, but for other people it's not necessarily a necessity by any means. And frankly, even with a label, I feel like sometimes you get stuck in that label. Even for treatment wise, we recently had a talk with a social worker friend asking for sensory strategies, how we would go about it for treatment for sensory strategies. And we talk about even when you do. Oh no.
Okay, quick pause. The camera died. Okay. You were talking about
sensory strategies.
Sensory strategies with the social work friend. Is the mic still going? Yeah, mic's going. You're just so much squishier than mine. I'm just watching you. Or unless you're pushing really hard, you might be, but yours wait, feel mine, but I feel yours.
Oh no, yours is hard.
Mine's firm as shit.
Is that a new one?
Oh.
Do you want to switch?
No, it's okay. This is my real one. Okay. I can't steal Stephanie's baby.
I'd yell at you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. She don't like this. I'm okay with a little bit more firm, but that is that's almost sensual.
I bite it so badly.
You want to bite it?
I want to bite it so badly.
You should get your own and then see, here's what I don't know. Will it ooze out if you bite into it and puncture it?
Let's not do that. That sounds poisonous.
Well, You probably
Maybe I'll
won't.
cut one in half and just see what
If
it's
they're like,
like.
yeah, that'd be a good science experiment.
really
I'm more down with that than putting it by your
No,
mouth.
I don't want to put it in my mouth for real. I just texture looks.
I know, it does look delicious. Do you like a lot of gummy foods?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Speaking of which, do you know about his little
snack
secret
drawer.
stash?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any gummies in
Secret
there?
stash
Hold on.
drawer.
Before I start.
I added some stuff to it, so I feel like. Oh, I won't open those yet. But these stuff,
Oh, yeah,
these
those are the
Albanese,
best. They're the best.
They're just the
gummy.
best.
I think you can have those because Danny doesn't like that flavor. Alright.
Tell me twice. I always have a secret stash of gummy bears in my car, like my emergency gummies.
Right.
They get cold in the winter though, being in the car.
They do. They do. That is a trouble. These ones not so much. These others.
Oh, there it is. I'm on my putty still. Sorry. Still not over break yet.
Is it recording?
It is recording now, but that's fine. I think it's recording. I said record. You have to record.
Red button.
Yep.
All right, let me just take like 3 of these out of the bag so I'm not like making that horrible sound. Okay, I took 7. It's fine.
Okay. Camera died. Sorry. We were talking about
Sensory strategy.
sensory strategies, specifically talking with a recent social worker about what we do as occupational therapists and kind of what's the context of how we would almost treat, per se.
Almost.
Almost, like that's our job or something. But in that context, with different assessments that you take and stuff, how a lot of times I hate giving the assessments. Like, I like it for the context of things, but knowing that each individual, just even on a daily basis, at one point, this shirt can be fine, and then a couple minutes later, I'm going to be ripping it off because I'm starting to have a sensory overload because of
Absolutely.
it. So you don't know the context of the person, and I hate when people, even for their own needs, start to label themselves too much into a category, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a sensory seeker, or I'm a sensory avoider, and this, that, and the other, which it's good to know for, like, extreme-wise and preferences and stuff. Mm-hmm. But at some points, it's also not great to have a label where you're going to almost hinder yourself
Right.
in not being able to provide yourself the appropriate accommodations that you need in that moment.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like painting yourself into a box in a certain respect. But, and like you said, like some people really do seek having those diagnoses and actually need that structure. And I definitely understand that. And I tried to go and call a couple places to get an evaluation when I was having like a really tough time. It was a really tough time with work, and I was actually trying to think about, okay, well, maybe I have options here for some sort of accommodation, or just having a diagnosis that I feel like I could go to like people at my work and explain, like, this is what I have going on, and I have like this medical professional that's behind me, backing me up, that yes, this is a legitimate struggle that I have, and it will affect me in these ways. It just feels like if you were to go and do that without having that they won't maybe listen or be receptive to that. And that's not really like an issue, my problem, but not everyone is at the same level of understanding that I am at. So I did actually try to get a couple of appointments made, but I couldn't get anyone to call me back.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that are trying. This was, I don't know, maybe like a year ago, between a year and 6 months ago. I think with COVID and everyone being at home and then trying to like reassimilate back into the public after that a lot of people were having these realizations about themselves, and also having the same thought process I did of having to get an evaluation. So I know in general that the, medical world has been really stretched quite thin with the pandemic and the aftermath, and hasn't really necessarily fully recovered. So I haven't re-pursued that because at this point it's become kind of a demand. Because I already tried and it didn't really work. So now it's going to take, double the amount of effort on my end to get myself to do it again. Because that's just how my brain works. But maybe I'll get there, but I just haven't fully decided yet.
I'm so glad that we're having this conversation and that you brought that up. Because I think it's well, one, it's not something we've talked about in the show before, and I think it's a super relevant conversation, and one that you hear a lot of talk about online within the medical community, and everyone has their very firm, distinct views and opinions on it. And so I think it's just kind of interesting to explore it and to explore what your take and experience has been on it versus others. And like, I'm in a very similar boat where in the last year I have a clinical diagnosis of OCD and anxiety, but like the autism and ADHD have been self-realized, and I have been on a wait list for like a neuropsych eval for like a year, right? And in that time of me sitting on this wait list, I've had these same thoughts of like, what value is this adding to my life? And personally, like the fear of being invalidated or the fear of being unintentionally like gaslit or traumatized, not saying that that's going to be the experience. That's my anxiety speaking. I recognize that, but that is almost debilitating to me. So I'm like, at this point, like I feel like I've already been misguided so much in the past and previous experiences that I'm a little bit nervous of that happening again. And I've come to this place where I'm like, okay, I have found peace, and I've found like a community that is supportive and ways to accommodate my needs that I'm like, I don't know that it's going to add value to my life anymore.
And that's, I think, the anxiety surrounding the like medical professionals is not uncommon. It's something that I'm greatly struggling with in the same way. You don't want somebody to come and tell you that, no, your lived experience is wrong and this is not what you have going on. You're just bad at life. You just don't, whatever. There doesn't have to be a reason. And I think that that's a very scary mountain to climb. And risk versus reward, is it worth going through all of that to get the diagnosis? And that's something that's up to the individual. I know that, when people are younger and they're still in school, that there's more value to having the diagnosis to be able to have the accommodations that can help with that. But, once you're established and have these things going on, have been going on for so many years in one way, you just have to make that analysis for yourself. And I don't know what happens if you go and you get an evaluation and it doesn't go the way that you intend, if you can just go get another one. It's just a lot that is unknown and unfamiliar, and I don't have the bandwidth at this time to really dive into it. But yeah, just trying to focus on the things that I can control, and leaning on the people around me who understand what I've got going on and can give me the extra reassurance I'm looking for, can give me the extra support that I require, and maybe even being able to anticipate that to some degree when even I'm not realizing that it's becoming a problem. Like I can have people that notice that like I'm struggling before I really realize, okay, I'm actually reaching a burnout. Like it's becoming a thing. So it's really nice to have that sort of community around you. And like I said, I think neurodivergent people naturally flock to each other because there's this energy, this understanding that we don't necessarily share with neurotypical people. And it can be seen in a bad light to have a neurodivergency in and of itself, depending on the person, but there's still a beautiful community surrounding that like there are benefits in a way. There are people that have extraordinary gifts, like it's positives and negatives on both sides, and just trying to make the best of what you've got going on, and just trying to make yourself the most comfortable and happy version that you can be.
It's beautiful.
I'm always jealous of, like, Rachel's already talked about this for you, but, like, how well you put stuff into words.
No, I'm genuinely shocked. Because I'm, like, sitting here, like, I feel like I'm not, like, I feel like am I making sense? But it seems like I'm being, talking, like, I'm so worried about the interactions that I can't focus on the interactions as they're happening. Especially when I'm meeting people, I'm like, don't screw it up. Like, oh my God, what is my name again? They already told me their name and I wasn't even listening, and I'm telling myself, look into their eyes. Okay, look away. And okay, look back now. There's just so much coaching that has to go, like internal coaching for these interactions. And even at work when I'm trying to like lead meetings, I stumble over my words. I get so nervous because I just think I'm going to mess it up. So I'm very highly critical of myself. that's been a thing for a while. I'm trying to be more kind, and that's something that will come with more time, I'm hoping, but it's improving, but it's all a process, and it's not ever, linear, and there's going to be ups and downs in anything that you're trying to do, and things that are worthwhile don't always come easily. So there's just, unfortunately in life, there's just stuff that's going to be uncomfortable, and that's even more so if you've got more sensitivities than other people, but it's just, acknowledge that and do what you can, even if it's not fair, even if it's not what you want to do. It's just kind of accepting what is and saying, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do with it?
I love that you kind of shared the contrast between like the internal workings versus like what we're perceiving, and I also love that you brought up earlier this idea of like, oh gosh, it makes me uncomfortable to like be perceived, right? Usually. And I think that's something that a lot of folks in the neurodivergent community experience. And I know personally, I just like found the term for that like a couple months ago. I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense, because it's not this concept of like being perceived goes far beyond like being judged. It's even more basic than that. It's just like, can you describe, I know I'm throwing this curveball at you, but like, can you describe what you mean by like feeling perceived and what that's like?
I think that it's related to confidence, definitely. Self-esteem, mine is historically very low. Again, something that I've been working on for a long time, but there is a big part of fear of judgment. I think that growing up, my parents are telling me things that are acceptable and not acceptable socially. Hearing, being in school and seeing how other people talk about other people, and just seeing, how fake they can be, or just like kind of just mean. Learning all of these, unspoken rules of society. It's just the way that it is. I think I spent so much time trying to understand and follow all that it carries beyond, and it kind of goes to other people too, where I really struggle with like secondhand embarrassment. So I think people perceiving me is just a reminder that I'm being observed, and people are forming, memories and thoughts about me, which is hard when I feel like I have a hard time categorizing and understanding myself. But there's also times when I really do like to hear how people, because it's, how am I coming off? I feel like a little bit of a chameleon, and, I worry that sometimes interactions can be disingenuous because I morph so much and try to reflect the people that I'm interacting with, but that's just how I learned to interact with people and keep the peace with everyone. So I wonder if that's at play as well, where I get nervous that people all have different versions of me, which I think is the same for a lot of people, but I really, really don't do well with being misunderstood. So I think that part of it is like, I like to hear these things when it's, reassurance, and it's nice things, and just being like, okay, yeah, you're being perceived well, but sometimes it's just uncomfortable, especially when you're not coming off the way that you thought. But it's all, I think, deeply related to how I relate to society around me and just interactions with people. It just doesn't come naturally. It's something I have to work pretty hard on. So I think that's where the anxiety comes from. But it's, good friends of mine telling me things about me. I really love that. But strangers, it's just uncomfortable. And it's when it's a positive thing too, if you don't have the self-confidence to just say like, okay, thank you so much for the compliment, and having to feel like, oh no, that's not true, or trying to turn it back and give a compliment back. Just working on, just being thankful and appreciative of people being genuine. And I don't know if that's something that's going to be forever, but I don't know. Those are a couple different perspectives I can see on it.
Yeah. I love that. And this idea of like fear of being misunderstood, I think is so deeply rooted and kind of a source of like trauma for so many neurodivergent folks, that it's almost like we assume that's what's going to happen and we're anticipating that, right? And so anytime we are being perceived, there's that underlying fear of misunderstanding. And there's that added layer of like demand placement, like being perceived, having people like form thoughts and opinions of you or giving you feedback in a way is asking things of you, right?
Yeah, providing expectations.
Yeah. So we think of demands as like, direct asks on us, but oftentimes it's these like implicit ideas that we feel like now we have to uphold or now we have to repeat, or like, what did I really do in that moment? What specifically about that did they like, right? We're analyzing it. How can we...
Yeah. I think that the fear of judgment is something that holds a lot of people back, and I don't know if there's a way for me to unlearn what I've learned about how society works and what people will think of you and all that sort of thing, or if it's just something that doesn't go away but I have to learn how to actively combat. But I do think it's pretty widespread, and I, if anybody has any tips and solutions on that, let me know. But yeah, having to be really specific and intentional with your communications with people can be really exhausting, and it's like to that point where some things that I love to do can sometimes become exhausting, and that has to do sometimes with people, relationships that I have. People have expectations about you. Just because I could do something 6 months ago doesn't mean I have the capacity to do it today. And it's hard to explain that, especially when people don't have an understanding about how these things can affect one's energy levels. And I spend a lot of time doing stuff I don't want to do, and this is going to sound like mean, and this is not how I want it to come off at all, but I spend a lot of time doing a lot of stuff for people that I don't necessarily want to be doing, but I love them and I want to help them, and that's it's the right thing to do. But people don't like when that aspect changes, and you're kind of having to go against everything in your body telling you that you don't want to be there, and it's really hard. And to have that conversation later when it does actually catch up to you, because it almost always will if you don't actually truly find the time to recharge and reset. Just having to redefine boundaries with people, it can be really uncomfortable because it feels like you're letting them down, or they think that you're changed or you're bad, when really you were just overexerting yourself to a maximum degree to try to meet all of these criteria, and it's just not sustainable to be doing that long term. So.
It's not often I'm speechless, but I'm just like, it's just such a weird phenomenon, like hearing so many things that I've never verbalized but felt and thought coming out of your mouth is just like, it's very... And I hope other people experience some of that too through your interview.
Fun fact.
Capacity.
I know this is kind of a perceiving thing, but this is like often our conversations, even if it's about like musical theater and stuff. It's always still like the stuff that you come up with, and like the intellectual behind it is just...
Well, and this is why small talk is in my humble opinion, shit. And this is what it's all about, It's about conversations that lead... Like, if you're going to put the energy into a conversation or into an interaction, you want to have, like, to have gotten something out of that and to leave it a little bit better. And, like, I'm not just giving you my energy because I feel indebted to it, but, like, because this is genuinely mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big difference between, like, traditional neurotypical communication and neurodivergent communication, It's get to the meat of it, or let's just sit. Cool?
Yeah, small talk feels pretty disingenuous, and, you're going to ask me how I'm doing, and I'm going to say good, because that's what you're supposed to say, even though I'm not doing good, and then, even if I did say I wasn't doing well, what are you going to say about that? It just feels very blah, but I think... I spend a lot of time... I've been told by another close friend recently that, because I felt weird about speaking up about something, and I try not to unless it's really getting to a point, because I've spoken up in the past about stuff and inserted myself into situations that I didn't feel like were going right. I guess, by my judgment, which who the hell am I? But they said, Brianna, you often say things that we have all been thinking, but nobody wanted to say. And I tend to be such an observer. And I think that is, again, with the fear of being perceived and just the social anxiety, I'm a watcher and absorber, and I'm collecting all of my information and my data, and then I'm going to analyze it, and then I'll have something to say after the fact. But there are introverts, there are extroverts, there are thinkers and doers. Like, everyone has different strengths, and I think it's about finding a space that you can thrive in and that you can bring things to the table that are natural to you. Obviously, you still need to try to do things that don't come naturally to you, because that's out of your comfort zone is where a lot of growth can happen. But yeah, I think it's actually, like, I'm very happy to be getting this live feedback from you guys about it, because it's something that I was pretty anxious to do overall, because this is definitely out of my comfort zone. But at the basis of it, at the foundation, I really like the message that you guys have and what you're trying to do. So if I can help in any way, I'm happy to do so. So I'm very excited to have the opportunity to speak to everyone and bring something to the table that can be helpful to someone else.
What do you kind of wish more people would understand, period, about neurodivergence, in your opinion? At the foundation, at the very bottom, I really wish people would just take the time to understand. I think people get the surface level of some stuff and kind of run with it and don't really do any more digging on it. I think that people need to understand that some are very, very good at masking and being able to, quote unquote, fit into these environments that they're uncomfortable in. Because I've been in the presence of people that didn't really know what I had going on and had talked about it and, thought they were amongst friends and, just had not very nice things to say. And I just don't understand who that's serving. If you're not somebody who has these struggles, then that's really great for you. I'm so happy for you. But there are a lot of people who do have these sensitivities and these struggles. And I don't really think it costs much of anyone to just be a kind and decent human being. Understand that our brains don't all work the same. We have different preferences. We have different ways of thinking, different ways of seeing things. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. But the world is built for neurotypical people. So I wish that neurotypical people would be just more understanding that there's more hurdles, there's more problems that can arise, and things that they deem to be easy or no big deal can become quite difficult or challenging. So I really want people to have just more grace, more understanding, because there's a million different things I could say, but at the foundation, it's just caring about other people. You should care about people that aren't you. You should care about things that don't directly involve you. And it's free to just be a nice, considerate human. Just be a good person, damn it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that hard. And if you don't understand, ask. It's okay to not know. It's okay if you don't know, but you have to ask. But there's no reason to be hateful and rude. And, there's a lot of good resources online that I've seen. And I don't know if you guys ever get bad comments or anything like that, but I've seen in other people's videos just hate comments just about providing resources to the community. And I just, there's no reason for that. There's no reason at all.
Amazing. I don't have anything to add, so I almost don't even want to do our rapid fire questions.
I was just about to ask you.
Because I feel like it's a totally different mood.
So, in context.
Yeah.
Rachel was super excited to, add, a little new...
Add a little segment
Segments.
at the end of our shows.
Yeah.
Because we don't ever know how to end things. That's not a strength of mine.
At either of ours.
No,
Also,
okay.
we're Midwest people.
It's like, okay, I gotta
We just
go now.
salute things,
And then-
or we just
yeah.
do the little French exit and we're just gone. So I'm like, hey, it'd be kind of nice if we had a predictable ending. So maybe we'll try it. But here's the thing: I broke this on my hand, and we now know what's on the inside, and it is sticky as all get out.
Ooh.
So can I go wash my hands, and we'll be right back for the
Yes.
rapid fire round? Okay. Hold on. Pause. Oh God, it's horrible, you guys. It's like liquid cement.
Oh God, now we know.
I'm gonna put it here.
Ooh.
Now it's time to get a new one.
Yeah.
It's time to get a new one that doesn't is hard on you.
I was squeezing too hard apparently. I was trying to get it as soft as yours.
I'm not sure. Because even my mom's wasn't that hard.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with mine.
Yeah.
Maybe you just got a dud.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, I wrote a little script.
Okay.
Okay. So we're using this segment to bring awareness to some common life experiences of neurodivergent folks and for a bit of fun to close out our episodes. For this segment, we're going to have you answer quickly whatever first comes to mind. We don't want you to think, overthink, and keep thinking because we know it depends, but we only saved 30 seconds for this bit.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Socks or no socks?
Socks.
People pleasing or demand avoidance?
People pleasing.
Routine or no routine?
No routine.
Quiet or hyperverbal?
Hyperverbal.
Done. Wow.
Wow. That was less than like 10 seconds.
I know. I gotta add more questions next time. It
Were
was
there
that was
like
good.
preferences for myself or just the first thing that came to mind?
Yeah, that was the first thing.
Okay.
I was going to say, we were talking about this while we were creating it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, but there's always that like, well, in this context.
Yeah.
Well, in this context.
Yeah, I just had to do a Myers-Briggs assessment thing for work and like do a whole like several hour class thing where they talked about everyone's results kind of.
Uh-huh.
And it was so hard to do that because it just varies so widely on the day, and like they showed you a graph of like where you fell on each item in between, and I was like very close between the introvert extrovert, and I was really struggling with that one because I have both tendencies. But yeah, things vary so much, and I care for justice, but also there's a lot of gray areas. So, but the first thing that comes to mind, I think that's fun. I think that's a fun segment.
Okay, good.
Do you want to share what your Myers-Briggs was? It's all, I love
Oh, it's the
Myers-
same one that when I did it the first time when I was in high school, which was at least 11 years ago. God. ISFJ.
ISFJ.
Yeah.
Okay.
There wasn't that many at my company who, I think there was maybe 3 people who were that, and not everyone took it, but it was really interesting to see, you know, the types of people that everyone was, and, you know, things made a lot of sense, and just kind of seeing, it gave you, like how to communicate and your strengths and like what you can work on. They broke it down into a couple different aspects, but actually, I know that there's like mixed reviews around that assessment as a whole and how it's used and all of that, but I do think it's very interesting, and that's a way where I'm perceived in a way that it's because I answer the questions that way. But yeah, just interesting, and things are always changing.
You're a defender. Introverted, observant, feeling, and judging. What are you, Steph?
INFP.
Oh, INFP.
I think I've taken it like 3 or 4 times, and I've always gotten INFP.
The mediator. Oh, that's so real. Wow. Introverted, intuitive, feeling, and prospecting. What's the prospecting part again?
Like I over-perceive. Instead of like a quick judgment of things, I'm kind of like devil's advocate. I always say the Libra, our birthdays are not that far apart.
Yeah, 2 days.
So I always say I'm like I'm never going to be the friend that will agree with you completely, which is not everyone's favorite thing. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like I can always draw back a reason as to why someone said or did something. Like I can draw way back, which is nice, but also frustrating because I'm like kind of making excuses in a way.
Exactly.
But I wish I could grant myself the same grace. Because I can draw things kind of back to like where it started, but I'm still like, but that still sucks. You shouldn't do that. Or you shouldn't be that way. I got to think about myself as like, you know, treat yourself how you would talk to your best friend. I got to do more of that.
God, She drops another one on us.
I know, she's perfect.
I've been in therapy for so long. I just gotta say, I've been in therapy for like 9 years.
This is a great advertisement for therapy.
No, it really is. And I know like 9
yourself.
years sounds like a lot. Just got a lot of stuff to work through. But no, I think it's really helpful. And I know that some people are hesitant to try it. And I will say that it can be a process to find someone that you like, and it can feel discouraging. I ended up being pretty lucky in that this is the second therapist I ever saw in my entire life, and I haven't gone to see anyone else. He literally knows so much about me, like stuff that I can't even remember because my memory is not very good. But it's helpful to have that perspective of somebody who is impartial, somebody that has a background in the field that's able to provide new ways of thinking and tips and tricks to kind of help you work through some of this stuff. It doesn't have to be forever, but I think that pretty much everyone could benefit to some stint of therapy at one point or another. So if you haven't, consider it.
Amen. And on the opposite end, like, I've gone through so many different therapists, and that sounds bad, like I can't get along with people or whatever, but my struggle has always been, I get to the point, I'm such a people pleaser. I want them to feel like they're doing a fantastic job and they've fixed me. So, like, if I'm on an upward trajectory and then I have a struggle, as one does in mental health recovery, it's hard for me to be transparent about the struggle that I'm having, because I have in the past perceived that as, like, they're going to perceive that as a wrongdoing or failure on their end, which, so that's a thing that I struggle with that I know others have shared with me as being a challenge. So I would say to that, one, I have more work to do, but also it's okay to switch therapists too. Mm-hmm. And, like, a therapist never wants you to stick with them if it's not working.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's like the
Absolutely.
most important, I guess, facet to a successful, like, therapeutic recovery is the relationship and the rapport you have with your therapist. Mm-hmm. So that's such a beautiful thing that you have that. And if you don't, shop around, man.
Yeah.
Find it.
It's okay to shop.
That was going to be my next thing. Like, you can, write down and, or maybe keep it in your brain if you're like that. I got to write it down. But write down or keep a list of the things that are important to you in a therapist, Obviously, them taking your insurance would be super cool. But beyond that, if you're someone that's part of the LGBTQ community, you want to have somebody that's on board with that, because there are some people who are not, unfortunately. There's different specialties in therapy, different styles of therapy that are meant to treat different things. So just keep in mind the things that are important to you, and
it's okay. You can continue.
Keep in mind the things that are important to you, and discuss that with the potential therapists, and you might even be able to talk to them about it on the phone before actually having, like, your first appointment. But they don't want to. Neither of you would be benefited from having a relationship when you guys aren't having similar values and seeing eye to eye. So it's definitely okay to shop around. And also don't take it too hard if you are seeing a therapist and they state that they want to recommend you to someone else. That is not, like, to a fault of your own, but, like, there's different styles of therapy, and they might not think you're making the progress that, like, with the stuff that they're doing, and might have somebody better suited to assist you. So all of that can be, very, not stressful, but I can understand that being uncomfortable to go through, but in the long run it is extremely beneficial, and you kind of owe it to yourself to look at that and stick with it, even if it gets a little uncomfortable. So yeah.
Well, Bree, thank you so much for coming and hanging out on Stephanie's couch and chatting with us today. And I'm really glad that you're experiencing the joy that is the Neato Nice Cube. And I will tell you, squeezing the Nice Cube while taking a bite into the gummy bear is a sensory experience I want for you.
I'm not gonna.
And imagine that you're biting the cube. Wow. You don't need to do it on camera.
I'm gonna do it at the end when I'm done.
Good thing the camera died.
Yeah, so you guys can see it.
It's not on camera.
No, but I am very grateful to be here and to have this experience. I'm very excited for what you guys are doing. I think that it's very important work, and I think you two are well suited for it. And I just feel lucky to be able to share my perspective, and I hope that it does something for someone. And if it doesn't, I think it's at least done something for me. I am out of my comfort zone, and I was told nice things, and it wasn't bad to be perceived today. So all in all, I think those are all wins. So thank you guys so much, and I really appreciate it. And I hope that this podcast continues to have so many wonderful neurodivergent voices to share.
Yay!
Thanks, Brady.
Yes.
Not to toot my own horn, but I have pretty good friends. I'm just saying.
Oh, holy wow. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Neurodivergent Voices.
Interested in an interview? Email divergecs@gmail.com to get it scheduled.